Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wasn't quite active recently, so I decided to come back with a really interesting and cool hard surface modeling tutorial. In this one we are going to turn this design into 3D in Cinema 4D. You don't have to use Cinema 4D, you can follow me along with any other application out there. Also, this tutorial is going to be quite raw, which means that it wasn't edited heavily so that you can see my problems and how I go about fixing those problems. So if you are ready, let's get into it. Alright, so let's start it off by adding a cube. Go to the front view and change the X size to say 400. Then I'm going to scale it up slightly, then make it editable. I will go into edge mode, then rectangle selection, select those edges, right click and then apply bevel. Now I will go back to the points mode, grab the rectangle selection tool and scale those points along the X. Yeah, I suppose this is what we need right now. By the way, I will select that polygon, Engan, invert it and delete those polygons. This is what I need right at the moment. I will make an inset, something like that, then delete that Engan. Next up, I'm going to drop a loop right in the middle, then select all the polygons, select the extrude tool, but make sure that you enable the create caps option. Extrude them like so. Now I will drop in another loop right in the middle so that I can select those loops and merge them in the middle. Right click, stitch and sieve tool and merge those edges. I will do the same thing to those polygons. First I need a loop, then stitch and sieve tool. Next up I want to move those edges like so, just to have a little bit more depth. As far as I remember, while I was working on this shape, I remember I had an extra loop over here. I am talking about those polygons, but we need to change the shape of that loop. So let me grab the slide tool, hold down shift and scale those edges along the normal. Okay, this is going to make it easier to add in further details as it is impossible to do that on those sharp edges. I'm not going to do the same thing to those edges. The reason is we don't have much going on these ones, so I will leave them as they are, as I don't want to overcomplicate the mesh right at this moment. Now I will duplicate this just in case. And now I will drop this one into a subdivision surface because we need to adjust those bevels. Normally, I do the bevels as a last process, but in this case, we have some details that are exactly on the beveled surfaces, like here and maybe around here. So we need to get them out of the way in a way. So let me select them all. Let's start with this one. Also enable subdivision surface, bevel, and bevel them out in solid mode. Then we have that one, right click, bevel. Beveling that edge loop results in quite tight. So maybe we should do something like that. First, apply a small amount of bevel, then dissolve out the edge loop in the middle. I just need a supporting loop right around here. That one, we can add in those ones. And also that one. We will probably change them along the way, but for now, this is going to be enough for us. Also, I will drop in those loops and align them with the world so that I can delete the other side. I will select those components in the middle, then go to the coordinates. These are along the X, so I should zero out the X position and also zero out the X size. Now I can delete these points, hold down Alt and put it into a symmetry object. Okay, now let's work on the first detail, which is going to be that one. I will go into polygon mode, select those ones, and move them inwards. Okay, that was quite easy. Next up, we have the other one, which is more challenging, as you can guess. So let me drop in a loop. Then select those ones. Actually, this time around, we need to select those ones as well. Alt and Control and extrude them along the X. I'm going to select those edges, move them like so. To flatten out those polygons, I will select them, I mean the edges in the middle, then grab the slide tool, slide them, and then click on New Transform. Now I will go all the way around, click on the New Transform again, and center that edge loop. Now, let me see. I will go to the front view. Yeah, we need to flatten out those polygons. I will tap T, Alt and Shift and stop at 0. I will select the bottom polygons. Then I will do the same thing. Alt and Shift and stop at 0. I'm going to move that point like so. And that one. Next up, I will select those polygons, then make an inset. I'm going to increase up the angle. Okay, looks fine to me. Then I will simply delete them. To fill that hole, I'm going to first hold on Control and extrude these edges. Then I'm going to select the edges across. Right click, Stitch and Shift tool, hold on Shift and connect those matching points. I will drop in a loop right around here so that I could apply the Close Polygon Hole tool in grid mode. Because on each side we have the exact amount of edges. 1, 2, 1, 2, right click, Close Polygon Hole tool. Obviously, we need to drop in some supporting edges to tighten up that loop, that loop, that loop, and finally that loop. And let's not forget this one. By the way, that part is looking too tight to me, so I'm going to slide those edges off. Next up, let's work on here. First thing first, actually I made a mistake. The reason being, I believe those polygons are supposed to be angled. If you look at the reference image, it seems like it is a bit angled, so I need to do the same thing. So let me hit Ctrl Z until these loops are gone. Then I'm going to select those polygons and then enable the access mode and click on that point. That point, I mean that edge, is now going to be the starting point of the rotation. Turn off the access mode, rotate them slightly. We need something subtle. And I suppose this is going to be enough. I need to do the same thing to those polygons. I need to enable the access mode again to select that point, turn it off, and start to rotate. Next, we can bring those back in, I mean those loops. Now what I want to do is work on those edges. The reason is I want to have a really nice beveling going on. We can practically do that by adding those loops. This is going to be okay. But whenever I do this kind of tasks, I like to do it with only 2 loops. Basically, I want a diagonal edge on where the bevel is happening. This results in more precise bevels. But firstly, let's add this one more time. It's supposed to be around here. The more far away the loop is, the bigger the radius of the bevel. So we need something like that. Then I'm going to select those ones. We can also select these ones as well. And move them down. Ideally, the angle of that edge should be 45 degrees. We can adjust it by eyeballing. That seems nice to me. Now I will do the same thing for these ones. Move them up slightly. Let's not forget to select the one inside. Move this up. I'm going to need a loop right in the middle. The reason is we want to keep those edges as even as possible. By the way, I cannot use the move tool to adjust that edge. It is not relative to the shape, so we should select the normal one. Or we can simply use the slide tool. Okay, these edges look even. We don't need that edge to be that close to that one. I will enable subdivision surface and drop in that loop. I'm going to select these ones. Let me go back to the worlds and move them like so. I'm just not happy the way that bevel looks. Okay, that looks better to me. Next up, I'm going to add in another loop somewhere around here so that I can select those edges and move them in like so to have the same look. Okay, not exactly the same, but we are coming closer. I don't like the way that part is looking. Maybe we can use these edges to our advantage. I'm going to select them all and slide them off to the edge or to the corner. I will switch to the proportional mode. Okay, looks nice. I will back out and look at my shape. Looks nice to me. I think I just need an extra loop around here. And maybe that edge loop should be around here. Next up, I will slide that down, then select that edge and move it along the Z. I'm going to move these points as well. Since we have a relatively low poly mesh, it makes it quite easy to adjust those points. I believe it is safe to move on to the next part. I'm going to select those polygons by holding the right mouse. Then split them out. Before doing that though, I will open up the options of the split tool. The reason is I don't want to delete these polygons from the original mesh. I just want a separate object. So I will enable this and click on OK. I will go into edge mode, delete those edges because these are supporting edges and we do not need them right now. So dissolve them out. Then let's select that one. Go to the top view, hold down Ctrl and extrude it out. I will go to the right view and move that up. I need to maintain that angle. I will select that point It is supposed to be somewhere around here. To flatten these out, I will scale them along the X. I will need an extra loop around here so that I can move that point like so. We should always maintain the angle, so I'm going to adjust those points. Since we don't have any image planes, I am doing this by eyeballing, which makes it a little bit more challenging, but at the same time more fun. Okay, looks nice. Then I'm going to adjust that point. Okay, that part is looking fine to me. Of course, to assess the shape better, we need that detail, at least in the most basic way. So why don't we add in a cube? Make it editable. So let's go back to that object and work on the bottom part. I will hold on Control. By the way, the bottom polygons should be flat, so we don't need to do anything on the angle. I just am not sure about the shape. Maybe it is not supposed to be that far away. Maybe around here. I will extrude it, then move that point somewhere around here. I think that shape is different than the one on the top. So maybe that point is supposed to be around here. And that one is here. That part is going to be a little tricky. Maybe we should get rid of that one. I'm going to flatten out these ones. Now let me go back to that cube, drop in a loop in the middle, then bevel these out in chamfer mode. I will set the segments to 2. Okay, seems good to me, but I am not sure about the angle of that part. Maybe we should increase that up so that we have more room in the middle. I'm going to select that object. I want to move that polygon up, then adjust those points again to maintain that angle. Select those ones and move them up as well. We don't need that one. I will just solve it out. Let's go back to the original mesh. I will hit NNG to see through. Select those ones and move them up. Select, move them up. Okay. Now we should have more room over here for that shape in the middle. Okay, next I'm going to extrude that polygon. Polygon island in. Extrude, enable caps. Extrude these in. I know it is not perfect, but if I move these edges around, I should have something decent. I also want to move those out slightly. Yeah. Then I'm going to select these ones again. I want to work on that part a little bit more. Firstly, let me solo it. I have no idea about what's going on in the back, but I assume that it has that kind of bevel in it. Then I am going to start to correct the mesh. We can also delete that part since we have that edge loop at the center. Now I will go to the top view. If you cannot see your mesh, tap S on the keyboard with the object selected in the object manager. Now I will right click, select the line cut tool, turn off visible only so that I can cut through. Hold on shift, add this one in. Then I'm going to add that edge in. Edges in, then that one. Then I will start from that point, hold on shift and add that one in. It seems like it didn't work. So let's use the line cut tool again. But this time around, I will turn on visible only. I will enable single line. Then I will grab the polygon pen tool and connect these edges. I will drop in an extra loop. In addition, those polygons will make it possible to add in that detail in the middle. Again, I have no idea about what we need to do around here, but we can make a simple extrusion. I will delete these ones. That part is looking too boring though. Maybe we should add in some bevels. I will set this to 0. That looks nice. These are looking even, more or less. Connect these points. By the way, as you can see in this example, polygon pen tool is not working. I don't know why. I updated my version, but it still doesn't work. So I'm going to use the line cut tool. Nice. Next up, by the way, I can tell it by the shading that we have some duplicated points. Just look at that polygon and then look at that one. That edge is looking extremely sharp. So I will select all the points and then optimize them. We can use that symmetry group. Next, I'm going to drop some loops around here, then make a loop selection in polygon mode. In fact, we don't need that one. I'm going to scale them first along the Y. Then I will extrude them in with the extrude tool. But make sure that caps option is turned off. After doing that, I will tap T and scale them like so. I am doing this because I don't want to see the inside. I will delete these polygons. Next up, I will need a cap. I need a bevel. So we have some options. Let me try to slide those edges in. Right click, slide. But before adding that one though, I need that loop, then slide tool and slide them in. I will go into the fixed distance. Okay, I will make a funk break selection to select those polygons at the top. I will go back to the edge mode. Okay, that seems good enough to me. But how can we mirror the details on the top to the bottom? Well, first I will solo it and I will check the axis of the object. Right now it is a little bit offset to the top, so it's not going to be possible to mirror this perfectly. So what I'm going to do is enable axis mode and move it down. I will do this by eyeballing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Once I have done that, I will go into polygon mode. I will right click and open up the symmetrize options. I will turn off link with hub. I want to mirror this along the Y, so I should turn this off and instead turn on the Y. Let's click on OK. Let me select the points. Okay, let's enable side division surface. It's time to drop in some loops to tighten up those edges. You know what? I believe it will be better to split that object. And also, I forgot to flatten out the points or components in the middle after extruding things in. So I will go into polygon mode. Make sure that you do this all the time when you are using a symmetry object, because you always end up with some leftovers in the middle. So to get rid of them, firstly going to polygon mode, not edge or points, just the polygon mode, and select everything that is in the middle, then delete them. Okay, now I will double click on that polygon island. Since it doesn't have any connection, I should be able to select it. Then I'm going to split it out. This time I will turn this option off. I don't want to keep these polygons. Perfect. Enable subdivision surface. I could do something cool with those edges. Slide them down and add in those edges. Something in the middle is not working. Let me go in and enable the symmetry. I should turn off the weld option. Now I will add in the same loops to the other side. Or we can use the symmetrize tool again, but I like that process. I mean adding loops by hand. Then I will do the same thing. Clone, Alt and Control. These ones, slide them in and add in some supporting edges. For that part, I will select that loop bevel. I will go into solid mode. Looks nice to me. Okay, I think we should go back to that one and add in the final details to it. We need to cut out that part. So let's do it by adding loop cuts. I will go to the top view, blank cut tool, turn off visible only. I will select those polygons only. I don't want to cut through the polygons below. Line cut tool again, turn off visible only, but enable restricted selection. And I'm going to add that cut in. To exit the tool, I just tapped the spacebar, which brings back the previous tool. To go back to the line cut tool, I will tap the spacebar again, add this one in, and finally I'm going to add that one in. I will solo this object, select those polygons. Let me try the bridge tool. That tool is not very consistent, so I will just delete them, then Alt and Control and extrude those edges. Just like what we did with the other bevels, I'm going to bevel them with 0 subdivision. Then, to support them, I will add in some loops, like these ones. And then obviously I need to correct the topology. So let's grab the polygon pen tool. I'm not sure if it is going to work, but let's try. As I mentioned, it sometimes works, but sometimes doesn't. That part is supposed to be round, so let me bevel it out as well with a 0 subdivision. By the way, turn on the visible only option, otherwise you are going to cut the objects cut the components that you cannot see. As a last solution, if none of them works, I mean the polygon pen tool and the line cut tool, you can use the connect points and edges tool. It is supposed to be somewhere around here. Yes, this one, connect points and edges, or you can tap twice M on the keyboard. I will drop in those loops. Then let me use that tool, connect points and edges. That loop will not go all the way around because we have triangles along the way. So we need to add in those edges by hand. Okay, looks quite good to me actually. Instead of adding this one, let me see if I can do something like that. Let me solo this one again because I want to slide those points like so. The reason why we have them is actually to make those edges look sharp when the subdivision surface is enabled. That should be enough. Now I will make a loop selection to select those polygons. Then I will make an inset. This is going to tighten up those edges even further. And this is something I like. I like to have contrast in a shape. If you look at those edges, they are looking quite sharp, but that one is looking quite smooth. I believe that makes a shape look more interesting. By the way, I will go back to this one. Let's turn off solo. I will double click, move these up, then I will go into points mode, select the points down below and move them up. I will select these ones, move them down just a little bit. I just don't like that inconsistency. I'm talking about the sizes of these polygons. The offset of the extrusion, these polygons are looking larger than those ones. It might be too late to adjust them since we have lots of polygons, but I want to try it anyways. So I'm going to solo the object, select those polygons. And move them like so. Maybe we should deselect them. Okay, looks a little bit, just a little bit better. Then the next thing I want to work on is the bevels of that shape. I will slide that down. You know, I try to explain the rule. When it comes to bevels, you need to keep things as even as possible. Now I want to add in some objects exactly in that hole to make things look more interesting. I mean, it is looking just too empty. So why don't we add in a cube, scale it down over here. Then I will make it editable. Move that polygon up. I will just delete them. Then I will select those corners with the ring selection. By the way, you can always tap V and then go to the select and select the selection tool that you want. You don't have to memorize the shortcuts. I mean, it is the right thing to do, but if you don't know, this is how you do it. So I want something simple. That will do the job. I just need those loops. Okay, now extrude caps, extrude them in. We can add in that loop and maybe extrude those polygons only. I will turn off the caps. Yeah, something like that. Something subtle. Then I'm going to add in those loops. We do not need anything at the bottom. It's not going to be visible, so I will just delete them. But make sure that you select the polygons only, I mean at the bottom. I will add in that loop. Somehow I forgot to add this one in. I will drop this one into a sub-D. Yeah, looks great. Now let's drop this one into the symmetry group. We can also do something to those edges to make them look more interesting. Right now it is just too flat, but if I slide this down and bevel out those edges in solid mode, it is going to look way better than before. As you can see, a simple detail can change how a shape looks. By the way, I noticed that I didn't add in that cuts. Let's add this one in. And I cannot do that. Why? I have no idea. I will try to add in that point first, then finish it on that edge. Still doesn't work. So maybe there is something wrong with this polygon. I cannot fix that. So I'm going to brute force it. I will hold on Control, extrude them. Then connect these points. Finally, for that point, I will zero out the position of it. By the way, that part caught my attention. In the wireframe mode, you can see that we made a mistake, and I have no idea. These kind of errors may pop up along the process, especially if you're trying to do things fastly. So let's try to see. I'm going to first try to connect those edges with the line cut tool. Enable sub-D. No, it didn't work. I will also select all the points and apply the optimize tool. Still didn't work. Yeah, we have these empty edges. These are the worst guys when it comes to 3D modeling. Okay, it seems like that was the issue. The thing is that though, they are quite hard to find, you know. I mean, it is obvious it is somewhere around here, but where exactly? So you need to move things around and maybe delete. Yeah, you see, it is right here. So I'm going to select it if I can. You can also go into point mode and delete a point on that edge. I will enable sub-D to make sure that everything is going fine. Yes. Then I will hold on Control, extrude. Then with the polygon pen tool, I'm going to merge these points. Now that we have matching points or components around, I can use the close polygon hole tool. I will flatten out these polygons. Then these ones. I want to add in the last details to that area. By the way, let me turn off that mirror plane. I know it is a little bit annoying. So I want to do something similar to that piece. It's not going to be the same thing exactly, but we need something around here. So I will add in a cube. Then make it editable. I will move that edge like so to have that angle, that polygon, and move that down. Then I will do that one more time along the X. And finally, to mirror this, I'm going to zero out the position and zero out the size. Then I will delete that selected polygon in the middle. I will go into points mode, select those points with the rectangle selection, then drop this object into the symmetry. Then I'm going to drop in some loops. Okay. It is not accurate to the original design, but it's not too big of a deal. Next up, I want to work on that part. I want to add in those panel cuts. And the thing is that, unfortunately, we cannot do that to that mesh right now because the density is just too low. It is not going to allow us to add in those details, which means that we need to subdivide the mesh. So let's turn off the axis mode. By the way, if it is enabled, you cannot select anything in your scene. So I want to subdivide this mesh. We can select them all. I mean, these two objects and group them, subdivide them one time, but one time may not be enough. So I suppose we should stick to 2. Yeah, I will set this to 2. I know it is going to increase up the density a lot, but this is something we need to do, unfortunately. So before making anything distractive, I will hold down Control and duplicate that subdivision surface and hide it, just in case. Then I will make this editable. I will move this out. Okay, now it's going to be possible to add in panel cuts without artifacts. We can remove those unnecessary edges. I just need the supporting edges. By the way, before subdividing these objects, I forgot to await those points in the middle, but it is not too late. I'm going to select them all and zero out the position and size. Now I'm going to split that into different parts. Let's select here. I will make a loop selection. Actually, I will do this by adding some loops. Then I will select those edges, then move them like so. Let's enable subd. Actually, it is looking way better than I thought. Maybe we should keep it like that. Or we can add in those sharp edges. Well, it is up to you. You can add in as many as you want. So why don't we select those ones and do the same thing. some loops around and move those edges inwards. We can also make other details, like we can select that loop and push it in like so. Yeah, maybe another one to those loops. I think it is time to work on these little screens. I will add in a cube, then let's go to the front. It's just a scale. I'm going to rotate it also. Okay, looks nice. Now I will make it editable. And the first thing I'm going to do is select the edge and move it up. It seems like that polygon is aligned with the orientation of the object above. Not exactly, but just a little bit. Now I will select the rectangle selection and bevel these out with 0 subdivision. Then I will select those edges. But these are supposed to be round, so I will set this to 2. Undo, do it one more time. We need something subtle. Okay, now it is time to correct that topology. I will select that N-gun, invert it, and delete these polygons just to make the process a little bit easier. Let's solid the object. I will grab the polygon pen tool, hopefully it is going to work. And now I will fit in those edges. I need them so that I can tighten up those points. Speaking of that, I need that loop. Then, yeah, we can ignore those N-guns. To make the surface uniform, I can add in those loops. Actually, I will show you a better way to make these points pointier. Normally, you need to add in these kind of supporting edges, but if you firstly make an inset and then add in those edges and merge them in the middle, this is going to allow you to dissolve out so many segments, edges. I will solve them out. With a single edge loop, I am able to tighten up that corner. I could do the same thing to those points. We have triangles, so we can dissolve these out. Finally, I'm going to use equal spacing tool. Okay, next up, I will select them all, extrude, enable caps, extrude them like so. And for the screen, that was just a frame. For the screen, I will make a funk break selection. Then an inset. Unfortunately, inset has a limit after a point. The points, polygons start to squish. So I will apply a small amount of inset, then scale those in. Now I will hold down Control. By the way, let me set this to object. So the axis is relative to the orientation of the object. Hold down Control. I will do this one more time, but this time I will extrude them out. Let's drop this one into the subd group, symmetry group, turn off solo mode. We need some loops, like that one and that one. If you need a larger frame, it is not too late. You can make a loop, then grow up the selection. Then you can scale these out, these polygons with the normal move tool. I will select this one. I know it is quite hard to pick up the objects because I didn't name them properly. Maybe we should call this base or wheel. I don't know. I will call this in. I know it doesn't make sense, but anyways. D2 screen arm. Okay, now let's grab the base. I will select those edges in the middle and offset them. I will try to add in that detail. I mean, also the older one below. That should be enough. I will make an extrusion. You can notice that the more I apply the tool, the more those points get closer to each other. To get around this problem, we could apply a small amount of extrude, just like what we did with the inset, and then scale them in. I will hold on Control, extrude them like so. Then I will go into polygon mode, select those polygons with the loop selection, then split them out. I want to make sure that this option is turned on because I don't want to delete these polygons from the original mesh. Then I will select that loop, go to the coordinates manager, zero the loop out along the X. Enable sub D. Obviously, the base needs some supporting edges. I will go into edge mode. By the way, let me call this metal. That loop and the one to the inside. If you cannot see, you can always hit NG. To remove those sharp edges, I will select the phone, increase that up. I don't know why, but it feels like these are supposed to be over here. Let's select that loop. Then, extrude a small amount of extrude. Then scale. Select these, split them out. I will just combine them, connect objects and delete. Select that loop, zero out the position. If the size is also off, zero it out as well. Then I need my loops. It is obvious that something is off with the proportion, but it is never too late to make these kind of proportional adjustments. So I will do that with an FFT deformer. I will add this one in, then adjust the rough size of it. As long as it covers the mesh completely, we are going to be okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Also, since we are going to use this FFT for proportional purposes, I will remove all the segments. Now I will place the FFT right above the symmetry. This is going to cancel out the subdivision surface, but you can drop in another subdivision surface on top of the current subdivision surface. And then you can select FFT, going into points mode, grab the rectangle selection, and move those points around. It seems like in our case, we need to scale that object up like so. Okay, that should be enough, I believe. You can also turn on and off FFT to have a better idea about the adjustment. Topology wise, we are looking fine except for the arm. So let me turn them off, select the arm, solo it. The bottom part is quite easy as I could add in some loops. But the top part is not going to be that easy. So firstly, I'm going to connect that point to that one. I cannot do that with the line cut tool, so I will use the connect points tool. So what I want to do is add in those edges across. Now, polygon pen tool. Actually, I will go back to the edge mode, double click on that edge loop, and dissolve it out. Same thing here. Then I will go back to the line cut tool, add in those edges. Now I should be able to add in some loops. You can obviously spend more time perfecting these points, but for me, this is going to be more than enough. I would ideally add in a loop to those polygons to turn the mesh as uniform as possible, like this one. Actually, I'm going to do it. Something bad happened here. Connect these ones, then these ones. Another loop here. By the way, the reason why that loop stops at that edge, because there is an angle along the way of the loop. This is usually why a loop cut stops. Lastly, let's enable the sequence space ambient occlusion. Alright, this is going to be it for this tutorial. I know that was a long one. As I mentioned, I wanted to show you everything during the process. I wanted to show you my mistakes and how I go about fixing those issues. So if you have any questions, just let me know anytime, and hopefully I will see you in the next ones. Bye.